The grand courtship hall of the Valyrian Empire stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian floor, its crystalline ceiling refracting the light of 7 suns. Princess Lyra stood at the center of the raised dais, her bioluminescent skin dimming with each passing hour, a telltale sign of her growing frustration. She was the youngest daughter of Emperor Kalas, ruler of the Valyrian Empire, which controlled 47 star systems and commanded the respect of over 200 species. At the age of maturity, tradition demanded she choose a consort from among the galaxy's most prestigious suitors. For 3 solar cycles, representatives from the most powerful civilizations had presented themselves before her. And for 3 solar cycles, she had rejected them all. The Krynothian ambassador had been first, a being of pure energy contained within a gravitational field generator. He had offered her dominion over 12 mineral-rich systems and promised that their union would create offspring capable of manipulating spacetime itself. Lyra had watched his presentation with polite interest before declining. "I do not wish to be an equation," she had said simply. Next came the silicate prince of Thuron IV, whose crystalline form refracted light into impossible colors. His people had achieved biological immortality through silicon-based evolution, and he offered her eternity. She had touched his faceted surface gently before shaking her head. "I do not wish to watch the universe grow cold while I remain unchanged." The procession continued. The Hive Mind Collective sent 1,000 identical drones, speaking in perfect synchronization, offering perfect unity of thought. The quantum fluctuation baron promised her existence across infinite parallel realities. The temporal lord offered her the ability to move freely through time itself. To each, Princess Lyra gave the same answer: no. Her father grew concerned. Her 3 elder sisters had all made prestigious matches that had strengthened the empire's political position. The courtiers whispered that perhaps the youngest princess was too particular, too proud, or perhaps fundamentally flawed in some way that prevented her from recognizing a suitable match. But Lyra knew the truth. She had rejected them all not out of arrogance, but out of a deep loneliness that none of them could understand. Each suitor had offered her power, immortality, enhancement, transcendence, everything except what she actually wanted. Someone who would see her as she was, not as a political asset or a biological catalyst for superior offspring. On the final day of the courtship period, as the twin moons began to rise, a small transport vessel requested permission to land. The harbor master nearly denied it. The ship was outdated, its hull scarred from atmospheric entries, its energy signature barely registering on their sensors. But protocol demanded that all who arrived during the courtship window be granted audience. The airlock opened, and out stepped a human. The courtiers gasped. Humans were known throughout the galaxy, but not for reasons that inspired respect. They were the newest spacefaring species, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 2 generations prior. They had no vast empire, no ancient lineage, no mastery over fundamental forces of the universe. They were considered unremarkable. The human walked across the obsidian floor in simple clothes, not even a proper environmental suit, just fabric and leather. He was tall by human standards but average by galactic ones. His skin was dark brown, his hair short and black, his eyes a warm hazel that seemed to take in everything without judgment. He approached the dais and bowed, not the elaborate prostration of the other suitors, but a simple, respectful inclination of his head. "Princess Lyra," he said in accented but clear Valyrian, "my name is Marcus Chen. I'm a cargo hauler from Earth. I'm probably not supposed to be here." A ripple of laughter ran through the assembled courtiers. The chief advisor moved to dismiss him, but Lyra raised her hand. "Continue," she said, her bioluminescence brightening with curiosity. Marcus smiled, a gesture that showed his teeth, something many species found aggressive but that somehow seemed warm. "I was making a delivery to the orbital station when I heard about the courtship period. My co-pilot dared me to come down. said no human had ever been rejected by royalty because no human had ever been foolish enough to try. He paused. I don't have much to offer. No empire. No special powers. I can't manipulate energy or see through time or exist in multiple dimensions. Then why are you here? Lyra asked, leaning forward. Because I heard something the other suitors probably didn't consider, Marcus said. I heard that you rejected everyone, and I thought, maybe you're not looking for someone to offer you the galaxy. Maybe you're looking for someone who wants to know if you like sunsets. Silence fell across the hall. Sunsets, the Emperor repeated, his deep voice echoing. Yeah, Marcus said, turning to address him respectfully. Or whatever the equivalent is in your culture, the small things, what makes you laugh, what keeps you awake at night, whether you prefer morning or evening, what story your grandmother told you that stuck with you. He looked back at Lyra. All those other suitors wanted to give you power and immortality, but did any of them ask what you wanted? Lyra stood slowly, her bioluminescence now pulsing with an emotion the courtiers had rarely seen, hope. What I want, she repeated softly. Yeah, Marcus said, because here's what I've learned hauling cargo across the galaxy. The most advanced species I meet are often the loneliest. They've optimized themselves for everything except connection. Humans, we're not the strongest or the smartest or the longest lived, but we're really good at one thing. What's that? Lyra asked, descending the dais steps toward him. Being present with each other, Marcus said. Seeing each other. Actually listening. My grandmother used to say that the most valuable thing you can give someone is attention, real attention, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Lyra stopped in front of him. She was taller, her skin glowing with patterns that shifted like aurora, her eyes multiple colors that humans couldn't even name. And yet, when Marcus looked at her, he didn't see a princess or a political asset or a means to power. He saw a person who was tired of being alone. Tell me, Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper, what do you want, Marcus Chen of Earth? Marcus considered for a moment. Honestly, I want to hear about your life. I want to know what it's like to have skin that glows. I want to understand how you perceive your 7 sons. I want to learn your language properly instead of mangling it like I'm doing now. And maybe, if you're interested, I'd like to show you Earth. It's not much. We've only got one sun and our oceans are just water, and we haven't figured out how to transcend mortality or manipulate space-time. But we've got music. And coffee. And stories. And people who would love to meet a princess from the stars. You would take me to your world? Lyra asked, surprised. If you wanted, Marcus said with a shrug. No strings attached. You wouldn't have to marry me or form an alliance or do anything political. Just visit, see something different, meet people who would ask you questions because they're curious about you, not because they want something from you. Emperor Callas rose from his throne, his massive form towering over the assembly. This is highly irregular, he rumbled. Yes, sir, Marcus agreed, but so is rejecting every qualified suitor in the galaxy. The Emperor's eyes narrowed then. To everyone's surprise, he laughed. It was a sound like distant thunder rolling across the hall. My daughter, he said, has been trying to tell us something for 3 solar cycles. Perhaps it takes a species as young as humanity to still remember how to listen. He looked at Lyra. The choice, as always, is yours. Lyra studied Marcus for a long moment. He didn't look away, but his gaze wasn't challenging. It was open, patient, genuinely interested in whatever she would say. I have a question, she said finally. Anything, Marcus replied. Do you like sunsets? Marcus smiled. I love them, but I think I'd like to see one of your 7 sunsets even more, though I'd probably need eye protection. For the first time in 3 solar cycles, Princess Lyra laughed. The sound filled the grand courtship hall like bells, and her bioluminescence blazed so brightly that even the courtiers had to shield their eyes. Marcus Chen of Earth, she said formally, I accept your offer. Not of marriage, not of alliance, but of friendship. Take me to see your world. Show me your single sun and your water oceans. Teach me about your music and your coffee and your stories." "It would be my honor," Marcus said, bowing again. As they walked toward the exit together, the courtiers stood in stunned silence. The chief advisor turned to the emperor. "Your Majesty, is it wise to let the princess leave with this human?" Emperor Callas watched his daughter, seeing her bioluminescence brighter than it had been in cycles, seeing her move with a lightness that had been absent for too long. "The other suitors," he said quietly, "offered her everything except what she needed most. This human understood what all our advanced civilizations missed, that sometimes the greatest strength is not in what you can take or conquer or transcend, but in what you can share and listen to and simply be present for." He turned to his advisor. "Humanity may be young and unremarkable by galactic standards, but they remember something we have forgotten in our pursuit of advancement: how to connect, how to truly see another being, and perhaps that is the most advanced capability of all." Far above the planet, as Marcus's small cargo ship prepared for departure, Princess Lyra stood at the viewport, watching her homeworld recede. Beside her, Marcus pointed out the constellations visible from this sector, telling her the names humans had given them and the stories they told about them. They were simple stories, nothing like the grand epics of the ancient civilizations. But Lyra listened with rapt attention, because for the first time in her life, someone was sharing something with her not to impress her or gain advantage, but simply because he thought she might enjoy it. And she did. In the grand scheme of galactic politics, the moment seemed small, a princess choosing friendship with a cargo hauler over alliances with empires. But sometimes, the smallest moments ripple outward in ways no one expects. And sometimes, the youngest species in the galaxy teaches the oldest ones what they've forgotten. That being seen and heard and understood is worth more than all the power in the universe. As the ship jumped to FTL, leaving the Valyrian Empire behind, Marcus asked, "So, what do you want to do first when we get to Earth?" Lyra thought for a moment, her bioluminescence pulsing with excitement. "Tell me about these sunsets." Marcus grinned. "You know what? I know just the place. There's a beach where I grew up. The sun sets over the ocean and the whole sky turns colors that, well, you'll see. And we can get fish tacos from this little place nearby." "Fish tacos," Lyra repeated the unfamiliar words. "Trust me," Marcus said. "Another thing humanity is really good at: food. We might not be able to manipulate spacetime, but we can manipulate ingredients in ways that will change your life." Lyra laughed again, and in that moment she knew she had made the right choice. Sometimes the greatest adventures don't begin with power or conquest or transcendence. Sometimes they begin with a simple question: do you like sunsets? And sometimes that's enough.